much for doing this.
No, I'm glad to be here and stuff. So
I think I'm about to go up there and get everything in the house.
I'm gonna break your camera. Be careful. Yeah, it should be a good time.
Good evening, Doug.
Hey, sir.
I'm Andy Depew.
Hey, Andy.
I've seen you. I follow you guys on Facebook, and Instagram,
Okay, good.
Twitter.
How are we doing? Okay.
You're doing great.
Yeah, okay, good.
And I used to be a TEO officer.
Oh, really? Well, you know how busy it is and
Yes.
stuff then. All right, better be
Yeah.
quiet.
Andy, I got a question for you. Have you heard anything else on the Pony Growth development? I thought they got new.
No, it's not
street
going.
lights.
It's not happening.
Yeah, my dad called me freaking out like they got new street lights.
No, it's
Good
not.
evening, everybody. We're going to get started here. It's a couple minutes before 6, but we've got some special guests that were not part of the original announcement, but we want to be mindful of their time. We have a couple of our K9 officers and K9s from the V&A Police Force to do a quick little demonstration and a brief Q&A to get us started, and then we'll get started with our meeting. So with that, I will turn on to these two lovely up and the two amazing officers.
Thank you very much. I appreciate it. How are y'all doing today? Good. My name is Officer Battle. This is my partner, Bingo. He is a 9-year-old German short-hair pointer. And this is my partner, Officer Johnson, and his partner, Garth. And she is seven and a half. And she is a Belgian Mountain. We are actually 2 of 5 teams right now. One retired here the last couple days. Here at the airport, all of our dogs are military dogs. We get them from, I'm sorry about that. We get them from Lackland Air Force Base in San Antonio, Texas. We go down for, I went down for 10 weeks. I believe now it's extended a couple weeks, so 12 weeks. We've got a new handler that just got assigned because one of ours retired. So he'll be going down in January. So it's 12 weeks. They go down there. They learn how to take care of the dogs. They learn how to train them. They learn, basically anything that is to do with training the dogs. They'll learn that from the instructors down there at the Air Force Base. All of our dogs are passive alert, and what that means is when they smell explosives, we teach them to sit. We don't want them, you've seen the movies and stuff with drunk dogs and people, scratching and digging and stuff. We do not want that in the bomb world. We want them to smell it, and we want them to sit immediately, and that informs us that there's something there. All of our dogs are reward-based dogs, so they hunt for the toy. So this is his toy, and he wants to work for this. And the only time he gets this, other than when I switch cars, he'll grab it out of the door once in a while. But the only time he actually is supposed to get this is when he is actually working and when he finds something. We try to hide something out every day for them to find stuff. I like to tell people when I get up in the mornings to come to work, I put my uniform and I come to work, it's time to play. He gets to play, so the more fun he has here, the more he's going to want to do his job, and the more he's going to be ready to do his job. The airport provides a vehicle for us to drive home and a kennel for the home environment for the dogs to stay in. They get to stay there, so if he has too much fun at home, all of us, I think, have kids and other dogs and animals and stuff like that. So if they have too much fun at home, they're not going to want to do their job here. So we try to limit the amount of contact that they have at home. They still play, with my kids and stuff. He'll run around and play with them for a few minutes, and then after that, he goes to the kennel and stays there. So we want him to be ready when he is called here, when we do come into work, that he's ready to do his job here and work. Like I said, all of our dogs are military dogs. They all have tattoos in their ear. So our dogs go to the vets every 6 months for checkups and get shots in the face. And there's so many dogs throughout the military and throughout the TSA program. We give them this tattoo number, and then they can look him up and they can see exactly where he is. They can see his medical history and anything like that. So it basically is ID is what he has. Them are basically, they're bought from overseas, so they mainly have lived in their kennels their entire life pretty much. So when we get them, we get done training and we come back to the airport environment, what we do is we will walk around the airport. Anywhere we go, they go. So we want them to be comfortable sniffing anything. A lot of times, some dogs have a hard time with the loud noises from the jet engines or stuff like that as far as fuels and different things. There's a few dogs that every once in a while have a problem with like slick floors. So we try to work the dogs through that because they just never have seen anything like that, have been on anything like that. So we try to work them through that to coax them to do well and to make sure that they're comfortable with whatever they want to do. Then after that, like I said, we hide stuff out for them every day pretty much, for them to find stuff. Hoot and holler, we get to make a fool of ourselves, they get to play and have fun. Each year we get evaluated. TSA has evaluators that come up from Lackland each year and evaluate us. They hide stuff out. We don't know where it is. They say, hey, here's your area. Go search this area and tell me how many you find. So, and so far, thankfully, the past 5, 6 years, I've been in this program for 20 years. And out of the 20 years, I think there's been maybe 2 or 3 times that our dogs didn't actually get 100%, but mainly we pretty much get 100% every year, and that's partly due to our department. They give us the time to train with the dogs. It is a full-time job, training these guys and making sure they're proficient with what they're doing and how they're doing it. So we try to train every day, so that's just kind of a testament to our department and giving us that time to be able to do that. So, and we do get to go, with us being kind of looked upon as one of the better departments as far as the dog training ability and having these dogs at 100%. We get to go to different events, special events. We've been to the presidential inauguration. We've been to the Super Bowl probably 5, 6 times, I believe. Yeah, last 6 years, Super Bowl. Because it's a national security event, they ask for teams all over the nation to come in and help and assist with that, so we go and help them and assist the departments there with that. Do you have anything you want to add? We work closely with Metro with different things. Actually, last year, myself and Officer Johnson, during the Christmas Day bombing, we both responded down there to assist them with the sweeps of the area. So we were down there assisting and helping with that. Do y'all have any questions or anything that we can answer for you?
What happens when they get retired?
When they retire them, the handler gets to keep them. For some reason, if the handler can't or doesn't want the dog, then we'll try to retire them to somebody in the department. Any other questions or anything?
Can you talk more about their training? It's pretty intensive, isn't it?
It is. Like I said, it's a 12-week course down in Lackland that we go through. Every year we're evaluated, and I mean, it's every day we hide something out for them, just to kind of, let them have that fun, let them, do what they want to do, and that's hunt and work for stuff. So
we can train down there. They have different buildings set up for different scenarios, so we train in different areas. Same as our evaluations, they'll draw randomly certain areas for us to have our test done. And so we may draw an aircraft, cargo, a terminal scenario, and then baggage or vehicles, all things that we're utilized in daily, or anywhere that we could be called. So we try and get them familiar in that environment and try and build up different search patterns so that there's not a whole lot of effort or influence on our part. We want the dogs familiar with the area and to go in and do what we've trained throughout all the training until that point. But in the schoolhouse, they do that too. There are more sterile areas there, so when we get out and get released, we try and train in our environments because things aren't going to be as sterile as they are in the schoolhouse. So there's a lot of different scents and stuff that they can run into out in the real world, so to speak. So that's what we train every day and we try and build up different, what if things so that they're not surprised. So we try and make it where all we're doing is carrying their toy and pulling the leash and letting them do that part of it. And then we also need to be able to differentiate between hey, are they smelling an animal here, or is this something that knows that they're trying to do? Because they're still ultimately an animal, so that's the side where our influence comes in, is trying to make sure we understand what they're showing us or trying to tell us.
Who names them?
Mainly it's the military that names the dogs. Since it is their property, they're the ones that have the names. So already picked out. Normally when you go down to school, like our new handler that will be going down, what it is, normally when you're down in the classroom for the first week or two, the evaluators are there, you're mainly just in the classroom, learning how to take care of the dogs, learning what they expect, stuff like that. They try to get a sense of you and your character kind of thing, and they try to match up dogs based on personalities with the handler. Mainly kind of what I've seen in the past is basically old guys get older dogs, young guys get young dogs. So, any other questions or anything? No? Yep.
Well, I really appreciate y'all taking the time out of your busy work days to come and kind of explain to everybody out there what it is that y'all do out here. So not only to keep our city safe, but the airport and all the tourists that come. So really appreciate you all y'all tonight. So
Thank you.
give these guys some So again, I appreciate everybody coming out tonight. My name is Russ Bradford. I am your district council member here in District 13, the home of our famous and fabulous airport. And the topic of tonight's meeting kind of came across after a couple of community meetings where there's a lot of questions about, what's the future of our airport? What's it going to look like in a few years? There's questions about several TDOT projects in relation. So this was a great time to get the community together, and I appreciate V&A for hosting us this evening, and I appreciate TDOT for taking time out of their day to come talk to us. So we'll go ahead and get started. So again, welcome, and I want to take a couple of the city that loves to have elections. And right now we are in the middle, we're starting another round of elections for judges and some of our county positions. And so we've got P. Danielle Nellis in the back, who is a candidate for district attorney. And we have Marcus Floyd. You'll have to remind me which judge you're running for, because it's so many of y'all.
General Sessions Court, Division 7.
Okay, y'all got that. At the end of the meeting, I'll give them opportunities to give their little elevator speeches, and if y'all want to, if they're willing to stick around and talk to everybody, I'm sure they'll be happy to talk to you, because at the end of the day, you'll be voting for them or someone, so I want to get in touch with you. We're also going to, I want to give some updates about what I've done legislatively throughout the last year. Some major, some high-level touch points on some major bills that I sponsored and helped get passed. Then I'll turn it over to our amazing CEO of V&A, Doug Groen. He'll give the updates, and he'll stay for a brief Q&A after his presentation, and then he'll have to head out. Definitely appreciate him taking time to stay with us tonight and do that. And then we'll have updates from TDOT about the Donelson Pike project, and there were some questions about the previously planned Hardy Pike extension, so he can help shed light on that. So as of this date, as of this year, I have sponsored or co-sponsored 120 pieces of legislation. Those range from resolutions to bills. The biggest one that you'll probably heard about this year was we worked to reform how Metro Council members get their lifetime benefits. So up until now, if you serve 2 terms on the Metro Council, you get to have Metro insurance for the rest of your life at a 75-25 split. That means Metro, or you, taxpayers, pay 75% of that premium. The council member paid 25%. I was on the side of wanting to get rid of it completely. I believe once you're out of office, you should be done. There was another group that wanted to keep it for life. So as anything in politics goes, we had to compromise. So the final legislation that we passed back in the spring is an 8-year period. So the first 2 years, it's still 75-25 Metro council members. Then years 3 and 4, it's 50-50. And then the last 2 years, it's switched to 25-75. So, and if I will still qualify for lifetime benefits, because this won't start until the next term. That's one thing with council, the way the charter is set up. If we make a decision that impacts our pay or benefits, it doesn't go into effect until the next term. So anyone elected, because, you don't want us, voting to raise our pay right now. It makes more sense. If you're going to vote to raise your pay, wait for it to kick in until you're out of office or the next term. So anybody who's currently in office now on their first term will still qualify for the lifetime benefits, period, as the way they are. Now, those elected this next election in 23, that's when this new transition will start. Also helped push for some tree canopy restoration funding. This bill just passed last week. Basically what this does is building permits, grading permits, general obligation bond revenue that comes in the metro, 1% is skimmed right off the top, put in a special account that is used specifically for buying trees, planting trees, trying to restore our tree canopy. Between Emerald Ash Borer, the tornado, and the Reco that we had last year, our tree canopy has been shot. And that's just not even talking about some of the development we've had. So this is an effort to try and get trees back, because trees aren't just good to look at and provide shade. The water that they soak up is good for stormwater, and it helps with erosion. There's so many benefits that trees have, and it's anything that we can do to restore a tree canopy, I'm going to be on it. I've also helped sponsor and pass some bills. I'm very big on preserving history and preserving historical buildings. So we've worked to pass a bill that will require additional notice anytime someone's going to get a permit through the historical commission. So that deals with any kind of historical building. Also, our legislation has dealt with what is a historical marker, what is a historical sign, so that we make sure that architectural panel, you may have heard about these party wagons or transportainment. So I signed on and helped push regulation or pass a bill that after December 1st, if you operated a transportainment vehicle that did not have a roof, you couldn't survive. And that prohibition lasts until April, when the Transportation Licensing Commission is supposed to draft some regulations on how those businesses operate. So until then, the owner wants to have a solid classification. We also work with Councilmember Hall. If you're not aware, within the next 5 years, the landfill that services Middle Tennessee is going to be full. And the next closest landfill is going to be 2 hours away. So we have a serious issue with trying to divert as much as we can from the landfills, whether it's through recycling, reuse, or whatever. So I helped form a new special committee on solid waste and recycling, so that we can look at ways, construction waste, can that be diverted to reuse? Can we do more composting? Because bio waste, like food scraps, and construction waste are the 2 biggest things that we ship to our landfills. And those are the 2 biggest things that we can do: compost or reuse and recycle. And so we created that committee. The vice mayor appointed me, and Councilman Hall be the councilmatic representatives of that committee. And so the next meeting we'll be approving the civilian side of that committee. So hopefully next year we'll start meeting and we'll start figuring out ways what can we do to improve the recycling in the city, and more people active in it, make it less confusing. So I'm sure everybody, yes, there's an app you can use, but so many people are probably confused, like what kind of ways to make it more easy, more impactful. And then right now, I signed on to Councilmember O'Connell's bill that would create an actual office of homeless. We have homeless camps in here. So we need to find ways to address that issue. And I agree with my colleagues that perhaps it's time that this office be moved out of the mayor's office and be a separate entity within Metro, so that we can actually solidify resources and get all these silos put together. Another thing I was glad that we were able to do is we changed the rules of council to reduce the number of committees we have. The first time it's been done since 1963. So since Metro was formed, we had 14 committees. And we got 40 council members split between all those committees. And it's hard being back and forth, some because they overlap, so you like this one because you got to say the other one. So we tried to decide, what can we do to make our committee structure more efficient? We went back and forth, back and forth. We were able to spin it a little bit from 14 to 11. And I'm proud that I was able to help through my idea of combining our health committee and our public safety committee into one, because we've noticed one thing this last couple of years. Public health and public safety go hand in hand. And so I helped push, and we got the public health and safety committee created. I was also appointed chair of one of the new committees, which was a combination of parks, library, and arts, fair, farmers market, into the public facilities, arts and culture. And Vice Mayor Schulman appointed me as chair of that committee. So I'm proud to be serving as chair on that committee, and I'm working to introduce the different public facilities and arts and other departments to the committee, so that we know when it comes to budget time, if someone's asking us for money, we know who they are, what's it for, and what the plan is. As I said earlier, I was appointed along with Councilmember Hall to the Special Solid Waste Recycling Committee. I also want to give updates on the capital spending plan that was passed the other night. So the capital spending plan, both this one and the one that was passed in the spring, combines for about $1 billion in borrowing and spending. I voted no on the one in the spring because I just felt like half $1 billion right when we were coming out of a pandemic was not the right time. I agree with everything in it, because there's funding for new high schools, funding for maintenance, things we all needed, but I just felt like it was just too soon after we were getting out. I ended up voting for this one, mainly because, unlike the last one, we have some benefits to our own district in this one. So 5 new bus shelters are being funded on the Murfreesboro route and some other routes. We're getting money for culvert repairs on Trails End Lane, as well as 3 paving projects on Elm Run, Timber Valley, and Priestwoods. We're also getting traffic calming on Karen Drive, so there will be a community meeting working on either January or February with residents in that area to get their input on what they would like to see in traffic calming. And also, with the Orange Sidewalk Project, I've been notified that they are currently undergoing the process of getting the utility corridors and utility coordination set up, and getting the right-of-way acquisition from the neighbors so they can start construction. So hopefully by this time next year, we'll see some sidewalks on Woodland. The other big thing that you've probably heard on the news is, just like everything else, we're going through redistricting. Now, Metro Planning Department is who does Metro, so it's the nonpartisan. If you saw the first plan that came out, you'd remember that everything south of Murfreesboro Pike had been taken out of District 13. And they had given me actually this right here. They made Smith Springs Road down there. So I had meetings with the planning department, and I reached out to them, and I got neighbors to reach out. So they were able to put this area back to District 28. And we were able to get this area back in. And then Thursday night at the planning commission, they approved an amendment, which put this area back in. So Doug, you got one council member only that. That's one thing I told him is, with everything going on at the airport, it makes no sense that they have to deal with multiple council members. So we got that put back in. And so this boundary now, you got Knights of Columbus right here, Curry Road right here, Raleigh Parkway right there. So if you live within Raleigh Parkway, Curry Road, and Knights of Columbus, you're still in. Unfortunately, I was not able to get this area to stay in, which is Vincent, El Air area. That's been moved into District 28. So, and then they put this portion of Nashboro Village into District 13 as well as Bay. So from 40 all the way down to Nashboro Village, 40, Airport, 7 Oaks, Murfreesboro. This was added. This came from District 15, so now I go all the way up to the merge of the 2 interstates. And with that, I will go ahead and introduce the amazing Doug Drellin, our CEO of BNA, and John C. Toon, give some updates on the airport.
Thank you, sir. You haven't heard me say anything yet, so no need to clap. I'm excited to be here. I appreciate the council member and you taking time to come out and hear a little bit about the airport. Be glad to answer questions. I've already gotten 6 sent to me, so we'll run through those when we get through the the slides, but I've been here after my military career, 27 years as a pilot in the Air Force, and retired, was in high school Alabama for 4 or 5 years. Moved up here in 2012, and I was lucky enough to take over the airport as the CEO in December of 17, so about 4 years. So this is the state of Tennessee, and there's 78 airports in the state of Tennessee. 5 of them are commercial, and then the other 73 are general aviation airports. So we're in Region 3, and the reason I try to show this is because it just lets you know the strength of B&A or the size of B&A and in the state economy of Tennessee. So all of the airports generate about Chattanooga, Tri-Cities, and Knoxville are in this one. Well, B&A generates $9.9 billion out of that $10.5 billion. On a daily basis, by noon in B&A, we will have more passengers than Memphis, Knoxville, Tri-Cities, Chattanooga combined. So there is a lot of activity. The picture on the district here, B&A has about 4,500 acres right here, and we manage 2 airports, 4,500 right here, and another 300 or so acres out at John C. Toon. So B&A is 6 miles from downtown on the east side, John C. Toon 6 miles on the west side. It has about 300 acres. But all of this number of jobs are non-directly, they don't all work for me. So on that 4,500 acres, our airport authority staff right now is about 314, but it's all the other businesses that we have working on the airport generates those 76,000 jobs. So pretty important resource in the middle of Tennessee. And those businesses that operate right in your district are paying a lot of state and local taxes, and they're paying a lot of federal taxes for all those that are flying out of here. So this is, you're probably more aware of this than me, but this is the history of B&A's passenger traffic. So in 1992, American wanted us to be a hub. They decided to leave us, and we went from 10 million passengers down to 7. Took a few years, started growing back up, and we got to the terrorist attack of 9/11, and things went down. Started coming back up, had a downturn in the 07-08 area, but about 09 and 10, we've been on this high rise. Right before the pandemic, we set an all-time record at 18.3 million passengers moving to the airport. Day was April 8th, 2020, and we went from 50-some thousand people a day to 545. So that is pretty tough, because that's how we make our money. We make money 3 ways at the airport. The airlines pay us to land, park at the gates, and they rent space from us. So that's one way. We make money by selling hot dogs, hamburgers, and t-shirts in the concessions, and then we make money parking. And that's easily divided up normally about a third. But when 49,500 passengers go away because of the pandemic, you're not making any money. And so that was a challenge for us. We cut $58 million from our budget within about 2 weeks to try to survive that. And what you're seeing over here is, if you recall, around December of last year, January of this year, the first vaccines started rolling out. And as soon as those vaccines started rolling out, people started taking them. And if we're lucky, knock on wood, by June of this year was when our fiscal year ends, of 22, excuse me, we'll set an all-time record. So it'll be a heck of a drop-off, but a pretty quick recovery for us. So that's helped us a lot. So if you like craziness, this is the craziness that's going on around you. So in 2017, we realized that, after, 7 years of growth, we were not going to be able to keep up if we didn't do something. So one of the biggest jobs that the board gave to me was, you got to figure out what we're going to be when we grow up. And So that's how we came up with DNA Vision, and it started off as a $1.4 billion expansion. And the airport is sort of like having your own Legos or Lincoln Logs for those that have been around for a while. So in order to make things work at the airport, you gotta move stuff out of the way because you never shut down and there's always passengers coming through. So in 17, we kicked off the vision. For 4 years, we've been working on it. We got 2 more years to go, and that's what you're seeing on this slide right now. So in order to get rid of our old garage, we first had to build a new garage. Then we demoed everything in the middle. But what you're seeing us do is we built a new ticketing wing to the north for Delta, United, and a couple others. We built a new garage right here, and then we put our new offices on it. So everything in the dark blue has been completed. Well, while this was going on, we built not only this garage, but we built a south ticketing wing for Southwest and American, a new concourse, a new power plant for the airport, and that's taken us 4 years. And the whole purpose of that 4 years was get to the middle. And so what we're doing right now is in this last big gap that we have at the airport, we're building another garage. These will all be one big garage. In the old days, we had one garage, 3 stories tall, held 2,000 spaces. The new garage will be 6 stories tall and hold 7,000 spaces. And what's cool about this garage is when it gets up to the 5th level, then it goes 9 stories straight up, and that'll be the first Hilton on the airport. So you're gonna have a heck of a view if you wanna come out here and eat dinner and on the top of the Hilton and watch all the activity. But what's also going on in the center now, the middle of the airport's been closed for about a year. So you're not able to walk from the one side to the other without going down a floor and then coming back up. But what's happened is the building is being stretched. So the building is coming out closer to the road 50 feet. And then on the back side where the airplanes are parking, it's going out 168 feet. And so in the old days, when you used to go through the airport before, you'd go through and they make you take your belt off and your shoes off, and there's 10 security lanes. All that's gutted inside. And so when it opens up, it'll be from the left to the right as wide as a football field, and there'll be 24 security lanes to go through. And once you get through with the security lanes, then you'll go through a shopping mall, then to get to your airline. And so the intent is make it nice and relaxing for you to get there early, you can shop, pay the bills for the airport, and everything works out. So this started as a 1.4 billion program, and it went up by 200 million. Well, that's what these boxes are that are got the dark line around them here. So as the pandemic happened, everybody told us it'd take us 3 to 4 years to get back to where we were, not 1 year. And so we basically had to take a pause on some of the future building, but we didn't want to stop because we knew Nashville would continue to get bigger. So we asked the Board of Commissioners for approval to do some ramp expansion here, just like we did in the middle. I'm not talking about that in just a second. But also, we need more space for more airliners. So we're now doing a $100 million satellite concourse, which people will have to take a 1-15-second shuttle bus to get to that concourse, back and forth. Good news is it's about to come out of the ground. It's already all 8 gates are basically rented, and so it's been a good investment for us. In order to stretch the building on this side, there used to be a big hole out there that you used to look out the window and see, and it was referred to as Merton's Hole, a former engineer that was out here. Well, it was a little over 50 feet deep. It took 50,000 dump trucks to fill that in. So over on this side, right when you get off of Interstate 40 at 216A, you'll notice that we're doing a lot of land work over there. Well, that's about 95 feet too low. So we need to raise that all the way up so we can make more ramp on that side of the airport. And that's 75,000 dump trucks they'll be hauling in. So anybody that's building in downtown Nashville, we've been saying, give us all your rock and dirt and stuff. We'll take that on the airport because that saves us money. in the end. So those two projects are ongoing. In the back, or right over there, a good-looking guy, Robert Ramsey, is our COO, and he's also our engineer, or one of our engineers. So he's the one that designs all this cool stuff. But what he really likes is this 756. So we're gonna open all this up that you're looking on September 25th, 2023, at about 6 in the morning. Biggest ribbon we'll ever cut here to open all this up. Well, if you start looking at this, the airport has about 23 months to do that. So we're spending about $1.1 million a day, a little over $30 million a month. If you divide that by hours, it's like $45,000 an hour. So we have people working around the clock to try to build all this so that we hit all of those deadlines. And the neat thing about being an airport authority is we fund all that ourselves. So that's what's going on right now. He's striving to go, where are we going next? What's coming after this? And so what you're looking at is long-range planning for the city of Nashville and really Middle Tennessee. The majority of all the passengers that fly in the state of Tennessee are driving from Memphis, Knoxville, north and south to get to Nashville because we're a cost-efficient airport, and so we have lower fares, so the airlines in Louisville, Lexington are driving here because we have more, quick, nonstop flights to wherever they're trying to go to. So by the time we open this up, we believe we will know we're going to have 554 gates in operation. We think the passengers leaving each day or each year would be about 10 million leaving, 10 million coming in, so we'll be about 20 million. But what we're trying to do is figure out what does it going to take to get this airport to be able to support 30 million passengers moving in and out. It's good that TDOT's here because they're our partner, because sometimes you probably go down Donelson or you go down I-40 and you see traffic backed up trying to get on or off the airport. It's not bad, and with 18 million passengers, it's going to be even tougher at 30 million passengers. So TDOT and the airport are working to straighten out Donelson. And then, the ring road that you drive around on the airport today when you get off, I call it our little NASCAR track. So it's 1 mile oval, but it only has 2 lanes. When TDOT and us move Donelson over so that it's straight as this, stage right here, we will be able to expand our ring on the airport property, and it'll be a 2 mile oval, but 6 lanes wide. And that makes sense because now you'll be able to get more people on and off the airport property without honking at each other as they go. But this is some investments that we still need to make on baggage handling and new concourses and more roadways. So we're working on that. So here's what the next future looks like. It's another, council member Bradford's going to give me a loan here after the meeting today. But what we know is if you're going to go from about 18 million passengers to 30 million, we're going to need find a way to expand. And at least our belief now is we will extend this concourse that we just built. That'll happen as soon as we open up the middle. We'll start on another 2-year program to do that, 23 to 25. By that time, we will have filled this area right off of I-40 to make it match this level right here. And then we will close the old Concourse A and build it back twice as big. And when you do that, this is what it'll look like. So this hole was 50,000 dump trucks. This area here is 75,000 dump trucks. We'll extend this concourse. When we close who's here today, we got to give all those people a chance. So they'll move over here for a couple years, and then we'll build this back on that new ramp, and we'll be able to get to our 69 gates and 30 and some million passengers. So it'll be busy over the next few years, and knock on wood, if we're able to figure out how to fund it all, we should be able to do it. This is the question that gets asked all the time, and I saw some of the questions about the runways. So we have 4 runways at the airport. 3 of them are running north-south. The winds out of Tennessee, 95% of the time are out of north-south. So those are the most important. And then we have have one crosswind runway that's our longest runway. It's pretty easy for us to go from B&A today, which we just started this past week, or last week, on nonstop to London, about 4,100 miles. But if we're gonna go from Nashville over to Tokyo, Japan, one of my old Air Force bases over here, it's about 7,000 miles. So you need a little bit longer runway to be able to carry the people and all the fuel you need to fly nonstop. So we've studied what runway would that be, and it turns out that it's runway 2 left, which is the runway that's closest to the UNESCO building. So if we had to extend it, all this blue is new. That's where it stops today, right over here by Monell's. But next time you drive down Murfreesboro Road and you go under the center runway right here, doesn't matter which direction you're going, what's the road do? It goes back up once you get out of the tunnel. So the big challenge for the airport, and we don't see this happening anytime soon because of that thing. We don't have the money for it to figure it out, but you've got to lower Murfreesboro Road in this area 60, 70 feet, and then to put the runway over the top. So it's not easy to do. Most of this property that you see is already owned by the airport. I think there's like 16 to 19 parcels. So we're engineering this to figure it out, but, and we'll probably start talking to people in this area that want to sell their property. We would be able to purchase that and get ready and wait until we raise the money to be able to do this. Any questions on the runway extension on this side? One of the questions is, are you going to put the runway over on the east side near Harding Place extension? And the slide that the council member had a better view of how much property is over there. That has not ever hit the final master plan, and Robert and I have done 2 or 3 each time, so it's 20 years away, at least at this point. We are using about half the capacity of the runways that we have right now, so we can bring more flights in without causing any increase of safety, but this would probably be a much higher priority, for the airport to continue to grow. And the main reason is the reason that the state and the governor and the business leaders in Middle Tennessee want to do this is because there's 192 Japanese companies that employ over 54,000 Tennesseans. Those 192 companies, the largest employer in the state of Tennessee is Japanese-based companies. They want the ability to go back and forth. And then if that happens, then you can imagine the way as popular as Nashville is, the tourism that would be able to come here from that. Our flight to London, half of the people that have come here from Europe right now, 50% are from England or Ireland, and the other 50% are from Central Europe. So we don't get a lot of Asian traffic, but if we ever got a non-stop service, that would possibly really generate a lot more visitors to Nashville. Let's see. Okay, and I mentioned I have another airport that we worry about. So just prior to the pandemic, the thing that you always schedule is another tornado. And unfortunately, we've had a few too many tornadoes recently, and we're praying for everybody in Tennessee and Kentucky that were impacted by the last one. But this is what happened to us on March 3rd, right before the pandemic. The tornado came from the Memphis side of town, came through Johnstown Airport, and then through Nashville. And so when it did, it destroyed 91 airplanes that we had in about every hangar that we had out there. There's a group of 3 of them right here that survived. All the rest of this is brand new. And these 3 white pads are basically like the foundation of your house, and those have not been started. They'll be by a secondary company, but the airport authority is rebuilding all of this to be able to get all these people flying again. That's mostly general aviation or corporate jets that fly in and out of tune, and that helps P&A because they land and take off there and can get to town just as fast, and that keeps them from having to mix it up with all the commercial airliners. So that is a cool flag that we found in all the rubble, and so we still have that today at Johnstown. But thank you, and be glad to answer any questions, and I think I'm gonna touch on a couple of them if you want. How many runways does they plan to build on the end of Holy Road, and what are the projected dates of completion? So there's enough. We don't own all the property that's over on that side, obviously, but in 20 years or so, if the airport ever needed a 5th runway, that would be where the airport would put it. But right now, and maybe lengthen one of those.
Doug, I have a question.
Yes.
How's the new tower out at John C. Toon doing?
It's doing really well. This airport does a little over about 650 takeoffs and landings every day. So about every 2 minutes, 24 hours a day, there's a plane coming or going out of the Nashville airport. That's meant to get some people to tell those pilots where's the right place to take off and land.
I have one thing. When I heard this, I was fascinated. I'm all about green energy, recycling. Why don't you tell everybody how and where you get your air conditioning from for this entire?
So the quarry that's over here on the east side is pretty amazing, and I wouldn't believe that it's possible anywhere. That quarry is over 300 and something feet deep. If you go down 50 feet, we're over 50 feet, the temperature is 51 degrees. We pipe that water underneath the runways to the airport at 51 degrees, and that's what we provide air conditioning with. So it saves us about $800,000 a year in electricity by doing that. In the new terminal, if you get a chance to fly out of Concourse D or come visit us at our office building, we have what's called Sage glass. So if you have the glasses that automatically tint when you go outside, those buildings now tint to keep the heat out from inside of the building, so then we don't need as much energy as well. So good question. A lot of this was about Holy Road and what's going to happen over on the east side. You know, we have plans and visions if the city keeps growing, but right now it's not in a 20-year horizon for us. If we have had a few parcels that open up, if people have land over there, a lot of times they'll call us and say, hey, we want to get rid of this, or would you be interested in that property? And sometimes we can afford it, sometimes we can't. So,
How's the international, have we got international flights getting ready to start up besides the one from London?
sure. So when we had the pandemic, we lost all of the international flights. So we no longer went to the Caribbean, we no longer went to Mexico, no longer were allowed to go to Canada. Those have all now restarted, and the British Airways has restarted. So it is getting back a little bit, if there is such a thing, back to normal. Other thing about that expansion that you're seeing is the old international arrivals could do one airplane at a time. The new expansion will handle 6 jets simultaneously. The old one would do 200 people an hour. When we finish this in September 23, we'll be able to do 800 people an hour. So the goal is if you arrive on a flight from Nashville that you can be downtown within 30 minutes. So any other questions that others have? These are pretty close. Yes, sir.
So you had mentioned with part of the projects that are not currently in the works, part of the problem with it is that we lack funding. With the recent passage of the new infrastructure bill, do you anticipate sometime in the future, I know it's still early, being able to utilize some federal funds to subsidize these projects to lower the tax burden on the community?
Well, there's no tax burden on the community because none of the taxes that are generated in Nashville come to the airport. So we get exactly $0 from the city of Nashville. So everything that the authority is spending is money that the authority generates. So we don't receive anything from the metro government or council in any budget. But yes, to the infrastructure, everybody will have, you basically have to apply for it out of the, whatever it was, trillions or billions that it's come up with. A certain amount of that money was earmarked for airports, and then they start dividing it by type of airport. If you're large, you get 24%. If you're medium like us, there's only 15%. So the 30 or 40 of us airports are all fighting for that little slice of that pie, but hopefully we'll get some. So I don't want to sound not grateful, but it's not, when you hear that number, you're thinking, boy, if it just come to Nashville, we'd be swinging. We won't get all that we want or all that we think we could possibly use, so.
Well, and I've got one last question before we let you enjoy the rest of your evening. So you mentioned that it's going to be a shopping mall at the airport. Will the average Nashvilleian who doesn't have an airplane ticket be able to enjoy this shopping experience?
Sure, so you'll hear, if you look at any of the cool airport stuff once in a while, there's, in Pittsburgh, they have something called a pit pass. And they do the same sort of thing in Seattle. So normally, if you're gonna come to the airport, if you have a ticket, you're gonna let you go through security and you can go wherever you wanna go after you get through security. For people that aren't flying out, we're hoping to create that same thing here. So you can come here and get a B&A pass for, say, $5, and all that is, $5 does is we have to pay somebody to run the no-fly list and make sure Doug Crulin's not on the no-fly list. If I'm not on the no-fly list, then I can go in and shop. And then the theory is then we give everybody credit, $5 off if you go to dinner, or $5 off if you park, or something like that. But I can promise you, with the dogs that you saw earlier, and we have 85 police officers in our force, you wouldn't go to a more secure shopping mall. It's because we screen everything at the airport. So, anybody else have any other questions you would like to ask?
I just want to know about the easement for the developer on Pulley Road. There was a 10-acre tract, and the developer's trying to buy an easement to a subdivision for sewer easement across the airport property.
I know there's a couple of easements here and there. Do you know anything about it, Robert? Somebody wants to run sewer across our property, or?
There was, I think I saw something come through the other day with the developer with a request to do that.
Okay, I can look that up and get it to the council member to see what that is, so.
As far as that development goes, I've not heard anything after I told the developer that the community was not in favor of it, and therefore I was not in favor of it. So if he wants to develop it as it's currently zoned, he's more than welcome to, but the plans that you saw, that's not gonna happen. So I don't know if they decided to drop the easement request or what.
We do easements today for the state or metro busing and put a shelter up here and there, but it's generally not in our best interest to give somebody an easement through the property. A good example is Colonial Pipeline has an easement, and so the pipeline runs through our property and then we hit it. And that costs us a lawsuit and all that when you do all the construction. So it's better that if that's airport dirt, it's airport dirt. When we dig in it, we're not gonna ruin anything for anybody else. So that's the only problem. If we granted it an easement, who knows what we're gonna wanna do with that piece of land 20 years from now. And sure enough, it'll be a runway or a taxiway or something, and nobody's gonna cut a housing airing off of their sewer. So we don't wanna be that person, so. Anybody else?
Definitely appreciate you taking the time out of your busy schedule to say late today to talk to everybody and present this information. I hope everybody who's here and was able to watch on Facebook Live learned some new things. So yes, let's give a hand to as our T-Dot guy is making his way, I've also got Brian Sexton with SDHA. He's got some brief information he just wanted to provide everybody about some programs that are going on.
Thank you, Councilman Bradford. I'll see about 30 seconds. I'm on the race against time. My name is Brian Sexton, and I'm talking about the weather. I work for our community development department, and we have we get a community development block grant to support our home repair and winterization programs. So I've been at every council meeting, every HOA meeting, trying to get these programs into the hands of residents who might need them. These are HUD-funded grants, basically our home repair program. If you're in need of electrical improvements, heating, venting, air conditioning, roof repairs, porches, structural openings, foundations, plumbing, it covers a variety of repairs that you may know someone that may be in need of those repairs. It's basically a grant that you could apply for through NDHA and save some money during this holiday season into the new year. Our weatherization program pretty much works the same way. That program is meant to make your home more safe, comfortable. With the weather turning like it is, it's getting colder. We know there's some folks out there that could really use some weatherization improvements in their home. So there's no need to give this money back to HUD. We want to get this money into the hands of our Davidson County residents that can really use it. So if you know someone, whether it's at your local gyms or place of worship, please, I'll leave some information with you electronically. Just connect with me. I'll put my cards on the table, and I can get you to the people that can help you in our office. All right? Thank you.
Thank you. And if you already get my monthly newsletter, I've been putting that information out. If you don't get my newsletter, please go to the back. You can either sign up in paper or I've got a QR code. If you don't want to touch the pins, you just scan that code. It'll pull up a form, fill that out, and I'll get you added to my email list. With that, I would like to introduce Mr. Shane Tester. He is with TDOT. He is going to let you know what is happening with Harding and Donelson Pike.
Good evening, everyone. TDOT Region 3, Doug showed a slide earlier, real similar to TDOT. It goes 4 regions of the state for the airport. TDOT set up the same way. Those same 4 regions, Region 4 is our West Tennessee region, Region 3 is our Middle Tennessee region, Region 2 is in the Chattanooga area, kind of central east Tennessee, and then Region 1 is in Knoxville for us. We have 26 counties here in Middle Tennessee that we cover. The internal ring road at the airport, and you can't hardly talk about the TDOT, the relocation of Donelson Pike, the new interchange, without talking about the terminal access roadway improvements projects that we're working with the airport on. We have closely coordinated with Metro National Airport for the last probably 3 years ever since we've had this project under engineering. We meet every month, and then we have workshops whenever we need to discuss how the 2 projects interface. So I'm going to talk specifically about the TDOT project. It's a little over 1.2 miles. That's the length on I-40. It's a little over 1.8 miles on what will be relocated Donelson Pike. It includes a new interchange. Estimated cost of the project is a little over $90 million, and we're trying to get the project wet to contract as soon as possible. Just kind of a high-level overview of the proposed improvements here. This is just a kind of, this graphic here is just an aerial image that's overlaid with the proposed improvements. It also shows the proposed improvements of the internal ring road for the airport. I mentioned the project limits on I-40. I guess the best way to describe this, if you're driving the interstate, we just completed a resurfacing job. And you'll notice we stopped, if you're going eastbound on I-40, you notice we stopped just around, I know this will have a pointer. Yeah. Just around the discrete access to the airport here, if you're going eastbound. We stopped resurfacing here, and then we picked back up resurfacing here around Elm Hill Pike. That is specifically because we anticipate this project getting let to contract next year. We will be shifting traffic around on I-40 kind of to the inside and outside, and so that's specifically why we excluded this piece of the resurfacing project. And so all this will get pavement in the Donelson Pike interchange project. The limits of our project on Donelson Pike itself, to the south here, it begins just as you come out of the taxiway tunnel going north, and it extends all the way up to the north of I-40 near the Raceway gas station entrance. It does include a diverging diamond interchange. That'll be a new interchange that's located to the east of the existing interchange, a pretty significant piece to the east of the existing interchange. I'm going to talk more about the diverging diamond interchange here in the next couple of slides. So, not sure if everybody's familiar with the diverging diamond interchange. The way I like to best describe it is using an example, a real world example. If you've ever been to exit 407 on I-40, which is the Sevierville Gatlinburg exit, that is what's known as a diverging diamond interchange. They're a very efficient interchange. You'll notice if you drive through that interchange, there's some crossover locations on each side of the interstate. That's these locations here. Actually, it's controlled by traffic signals, and you actually cross over onto the opposite side of the roadway. So it's unconventional in that sense, but the interchanges are very efficient and some of the main features about the Donelson Pike interchange relocation project here. Does include 4 major bridges. You've got the 2 independent bridges that are associated with the Virgin Diamond interchange over the interstate. You've got a bridge that's going to be for the westbound off-ramp over McCrory Creek. And then you've got what is shown as here is Bridge 1. This is going to be a future road, an internal airport road. It's shown here as the MNAA East-West Road, but that's what what we call Fly Nashville Way. All right. Project does include a significant amount of retaining walls, 6 in total, and then 2 what we call rock fall steel fence walls. The majority of the walls here, the significant walls, are associated with the bridges here over the interstate and also the bridges over Fly Nashville Way. We do have a retaining wall here for what will be a future discrete connection to I-40 eastbound if you're exiting the airport. As we all know, if you're coming east on I-40 today, you have a discrete access that directly goes into the airport, but you don't have a direct connection that goes back out. And I mentioned the 2 rock fall walls here. This wall is where we're relocating Donelson Pike just to the east, right as we come out of the taxiway tunnels. If you notice there today, there's kind of a rock embankment there. So there will be some protection for any kind of rock that scales off there. And then the other rock fall wall here is with the existing bridge. We are widening the section of roadway through this area, and we're getting closer to the bridge abutments here, so there will be a rock fall protection wall here. The project I mentioned the new connection, the discrete connection to I-40 eastbound coming out of the airport. It will be what will be known as included in what is known as a collector distributor road. This photo here is at the Mount Juliet interchange. If you've ever driven that interchange, you know there's a barrier wall that separates the through traffic from the exiting traffic, and then as you get on at Mount Juliet Road, that also continues. That's going to be similar here. You'll have exiting traffic that's going to utilize or to get off eastbound to the new Donelson Pike interchange, and you'll also have the traffic entering Donelson Pike I-40 going eastbound behind a barrier wall, a concrete barrier wall shown like this location. One of the major, Doug kind of touched on this a while ago, but one of the major, the major areas that we have to work with in any project is we have to deal with utilities and relocate utilities as part of our project. State law allows utilities to locate within highway rights of way where there's enough room to accommodate those. And so when we go to move an alignment like we're doing in this location or in this instance, or we go to widen the roadway, we've obviously got to coordinate with utilities, and we've got to work out a plan to accommodate where they're going to go in the future. So this is a slide here to show the many utilities that are on the project. There's been a ton of coordination. You can see here all the utilities here, who we're dealing with here. TVA and Colonial has been 2 of the major ones. If you notice where the new interchange location is, and you drive eastbound on I-40, as you're going through this area, you'll see the TVA towers, and you'll see their power lines. They're pretty low here. That was one of the things that we realized at the onset of the project. And so our project team traveled to Chattanooga, and we met with TVA, and we worked on a plan where they're going to put in a new tower that's going to be adjacent to their existing tower, and they're going to raise their low wire elevations so they can accommodate as we go up to the new bridges, or through the interchange for the bridges over I-40. This slide here kind of represents the utility relocation work, and here's the TVA tower that I was just mentioning. The existing tower is just in this area. It's being moved just to the east. And then Colonial Pipeline was through this area shown in green. And they also exist up here in green. And their realignment, they're having to go around the TDOT project, and then they're going to go up adjacent to I-40 across the airport property and then tie into their existing line work here. That's really the major things there. The telecommunications and the electric NES, the telecommunications, we work hand in hand with the Metro Nashville Airport Authority and their design team to come up with a duct bank that accommodates both their expansion project and our project. So a lot of work done here with respect to utilities. I want to touch on just how the project's going to be built. I'll go through all of our traffic, or our construction phases here, but just some of the objectives for traffic control. So as we all know, I-40 is 4 lanes in each direction here at the airport. And so we will strive to maintain 4 lanes in each direction. We will do that. That will be a requirement of our contract. There will be some reduced lane widths on I-40. A typical lane width is 12 foot wide. They will be reduced to 11 foot. There's nothing really uncommon with that. It's within construction zone. On Donelson Pike, we will maintain 4 lanes of traffic, 2 in each direction. That's what's there today. There will be some reduced lane width. And the goals here is to minimize impact to traffic accessing the airport, and also our phasing approach to our project. We also wanted to consider opportunities to allow as much simultaneous construction as we could between our project and the Metro Terminal Access Roadway Improvement Project. Our phasing plan is basically 3 significant phases, and I'll kind of highlight those here in just a moment. But some of the main features here is the median pier construction, traffic shifted to the outside on I-40, auxiliary lane and ramp construction, of course, with the new interchange, setting state route, for Donelson Pike, the bridge beams over the interstate will require rolling roadblocks. And on Donelson here, new alignment construction, maintaining traffic on the existing alignment, the interchange construction, what we call a temporary transfer, and I'm going to discuss this in detail in just a moment, and then finalize construction and opening up the new interchange and getting traffic on the new alignment. So our initial phase here, and I'm going to kind of go through our color scheme. The areas that are shown in green is the areas that traffic will be running on. The areas shown in orange will be the first phase here, where our contractor will be working in the initial phase of construction. And then the area shown in blue here is our attempt to show the areas that the airport contractor will be able to work on the terminal access roadway improvement simultaneous to our construction. So in this initial phase, traffic shifted to the outside. You'll see there in green, traffic shifted to the outside. We show the orange here in the middle of Interstate 40 here. That's to build the bridge piers for the new bridge for the new interchange. We'll also be installing storm sewer here in the median. You'll see the mass grading is going on the outside. Now, Donelson Pike, traffic is using existing Donelson Pike. What we're doing here in this initial phase is we're prioritizing the south portion of relocated Donelson Pike, and we'll get to that here in this next slide. In this next slide, you'll see traffic running on existing Donelson Pike, and we're going to build what we call the temporary transfer structures in this area, where what we just built in phase 1 here, south portion of relocated Donelson Pike, traffic will be transferred at this location. That will be done with the use of 2 large arch structures. And that way, one of the structures will allow construction equipment to go through to access both the north and south sides of the airport property for their project. And then the other tunnel itself will be to provide access to the economy lot building. Again, the color scheme is the same on this slide, just shows the areas that we're working in this phase and where the traffic is in green. And then our final phase here, so basically traffic in this phase, the new interchange is open, traffic's on the new alignment, and you'll see here just there's some remaining items of work in orange here, tearing out the transfer, the temporary transfer, and then also constructing that discrete access ramp from the airport property to I-40 eastbound and the CD road. That's in that final phase of construction. So remaining items of work, I mentioned earlier the TDOT about is trying to get our project let the contract as soon as possible. Our project is largely federally funded, as a lot of our larger projects are. And to be able to let a project to contract that's federally funded, we have to certify that all the right-of-way has been acquired, all of the utilities have been properly coordinated with, and we have executed contracts with utilities. And so that's one of the things I want to highlight. We're still working to approve Colonial Pipeline relocation plan and execute a contract to put them to work. And the same with TVA here. We're still working on getting TVA under contract so they can begin construction on the deep power and begin relocating their lines and raising their lines. As Doug mentioned, it's been a partnership with TDOT and the airport, executing, the airport is donating the right-of-way for the roadway on their property. So it's almost a transfer of the existing right-of-way over to the new alignment right-of-way that will be required for the project. And then we have to acquire the areas in fee simple, what we call, we have to acquire in fee simple for the interstate proper. So the new interchange and everything, TDOT, that has to be in, with it being the interstate, it has to be owned by TDOT. Construction, once we get the project awarded contract, we anticipate a approximate three-year construction duration. We will be, we have Thompson Engineering on board to assist the department with construction engineering inspection. It's going to be a pretty accelerated construction project. There's a lot going on here. The project will continue to be closely coordinated with the M&AA Terry project, and then there will be close coordination with our federal partners, both the FAA and FHWA. So there's some height requirements with it being an airport for the planes coming in and out with the construction equipment. And that's all I have. That's the update. I'll be glad to take any questions.
There were a lot of questions and a lot of concern. In the past, people have brought up the Harding Pike decision.
Yep.
So where are we at with Harding Pike? Is this taking the place of the Harding Pike decision? And there's some concern about what is this going to do with Fulton Road?
Yeah, very good question. This doesn't really do anything with Fulton Road. The Harding Place extension does mention, the airport master plan, anything to continue the Harding Place extension job would have to be closely coordinated with the airport plan. Some years ago, TDOT had designed an alignment for Harding Place extension, and I believe runway 2R20L, when it was constructed, we had to go back and realign that. And then after 9/11, with like the runway protection zones and things like that, the alignment that we have now that we have designed doesn't work with some of the security requirements for like the runway that's there on the east side of existing Donelson Pike. So the project has been on hold and it continues to be on hold for
45.
yes, for a long time. Yeah. And it would be a huge coordination effort between both the airport and the department.
Keep it on hold. There's a major concrete road runway, something, east of our existing runways. And it looks like it comes about where Elm Hill crosses the interstate. I've seen one slide had it, and the others don't have it. I don't know what that is. Sometimes of the year, you can see it, but the leaves and all.
I believe,
I don't know what that is.
Doug's already left. I believe it's just like where all the fill that they're trying to get, that's where they're bringing it in, they're dumping it there, and fully it's for them to use.
Looks like concrete, and you can see them sometimes. Looks like a road or a runway.
It is a road.
That's why still nobody says anything about it.
Oh, you talking about the little road left just before you get to the bridge?
No, I'm talking about, well, I know how to access it, because where Elm Hill goes over the interstate.
Yeah.
Okay, right next to that, there's an access road that would go in there for taking dirt, rock in and out. And they would use that road to build whatever this thing is, and it's concrete, it's not rock and dirt.
Is it over there across from the church, or is it on the other side?
Across the street from the church, there's that access road, it's
Okay.
closed most of the time. It's a dump.
No.
We have fill sites in that area.
Sorry?
We have fill sites in that area.
So it's not concrete flat, it's just.
Macquarie Creek Road, there's Macquarie Creek Road there.
No, this is
No.
over like it really, here's another road. Okay, thank you.
Can you go back about 7 or 8 slides and elaborate a little more about where westbound traffic would exit onto, I'm gonna call it an off-ramp, and you said cross Quarry Creek, and
Now, and if you're gonna go north on Donelson Pike, this is gonna be the ramp if you're going north.
How close is the ramp to the Elmville Pike Bridge? I think that's the
That- that's
question.
my question.
That's his question.
It's
How
still-
close to the bridge?
It's still a pretty good piece. I don't know, I don't have the,
Well, there's the bridge right there.
yeah, I was gonna say that very first slide, I think, that showed the, you can see it here.
okay, there's that.
Yeah, it's a pretty good piece to the Amwell overpass.
Where would it connect back to the existing Donelson Pike?
Existing Donelson Pike right here at the taxiway tunnels on the south.
No, back up
Yeah.
top of the street.
Yeah, right here about the runway, there's a runway, gas station here.
Yeah.
About right here, right where that's at, is where that connects back to it.
So it connect on this side of the,
Hotel or the other side?
The hotel that's
so
on.
go between the racetrack runway and the hotel, or the?
I believe the hotel.
Hotel and the interstate.
Yeah, I believe the hotel and the gas station will be on the inside. So there's a huge kind of property in between the interstate and the hotel, so it's going to come up through there. So the hotel and that roadway gas station
Yeah.
will be on the right-hand side of it. So it's not going to come in between. It's going to be,
Because they eventually had planned it to come in between the hotels, and that's the reason the hotels was built facing the inside of that runway.
Wasn't aware of that.
Do they still have rules about distances between ramps, the federal law?
Yes, ma'am.
Between ramps?
Yes, ma'am.
So can they put a ramp at Elmville Pike with this new movement to the east? Harding Place extension showed the ramp at Elmville Pike right there.
So if the Harding Place extension, ever were to come to fruition, our planners had to go through an exercise to make sure that this interchange would work with the Harding Place interchange. And so what they came up with is a braided ramp design. Think of crisscrossing, so the ramp from, if you were going westbound from a future Harding Place interchange, the ramp would go underneath this new ramp and connect into Donelson Pike. It's very complicated geometry. I don't know if I can explain it without showing like some schematics, and I don't have those.
I just need to know the setback. I just need to know, can you put Harding Place extension where it's proposed right now? Can you put the interchange where they want to put it right there to the east of Elmville Pike Bridge?
All of that would have to be reevaluated for, it has to be re-engineered, just because of like I said, Doug mentioned, that here's runway 2R20L, and he mentioned discussions of, there could possibly be a runway even on to the east of that runway. And that pushes everything, further to the east, and then that becomes, there's churches and schools and things that you get over here, and it really makes, a future Harding Place extension starts becoming cost prohibitive. It's not feasible to.
So you're saying we won't see the Harding Place extension in our lifetime?
Hey, Roger, give it another 40 years or
Yeah, yeah.
maybe if I'm lucky, I'll see it in my life. Any other questions? I would.
Well, okay, at the end of Pulley Road by the quarry, they're running the construction trucks in and out, in and out. What is that? I'm looking at a DNA map that shows that is gonna be a airfield, according to this map and their charts, at the end of Pulley Road by the quarry. And, of course, we are denied, so I don't know.
That's where they're adding all that field.
That's where they're adding all the field.
So that's on the.
It's across from the quarry.
If ever, and if we ever built it, and that's where that would go, this is a long way to go to get. So we're just placing that stockpile, we actually have full material out there. We do all those fill projects with 750,000 yards of material on A. We'll store that there and move it on other places around the airport.
Okay.
we had enough excess material, we put it there, and, it's not inside the 20-year master plan, but it's 30 or 40 years later, sometime before our place. We may end up with a fifth runway, so it's just trying to bring that grade up. There's a lot, you guys know that area that's up and down, and there's a lot of elevation changes. So we're just trying to place fill there as it becomes available. And we use it, we may keep part of it there, and we may, a lot of times, we'll go steal it from there and put it on other projects.
Gotcha. Any other questions for DDOT? Thank you so much for being here. All right, so before we get to questions for me, I first want to take a moment to recognize someone very special who has been a hard worker over the last couple of years. If you follow her on Facebook, you'll know she's going to kill me for doing this. Sheila, can you come up here? She took it upon herself a couple years ago to restart the District 13 Neighborhood Watch. And she has been running that Facebook page, she's been organizing, helping keep the community informed, all while she was going to college. And this past week, she graduated from Middle Tennessee State University. National State. So she, doing all this while going to school. So really wanted to show her my appreciation and for everything she's done. So.
Here.
There we go. Right on.
With that, I would like to go ahead and hand the floor over to our candidates in the back who would like to give a couple minutes to talk to y'all, to know y'all. So I'll start with Ms. Nelson.
I'll come this way so you all don't have to turn your heads to the back. Good evening. Good evening. My name is P. Danielle Nellis, and I'm a candidate for district attorney here in Nashville. I am a Nashville native, multi-generational Nashville native, born and raised here, believe in living where there is some land. So we live out Clarksville Highway going towards Donelson. I love listening to these presentations today because they hit on two things that are very important to me. One is setting a vision for the future, and the second is doing it in partnership. And so, if you all think about it, we're in a crisis right now. We've had 100 and something odd murders this year. 8 years ago, we were at 42. Our crime statistics are startling. In 8 years, I asked you, where do you want to be? And it's not where we are now. And now is the time to make the change in this next election cycle. I believe that what we want is partnerships with the district attorney and community partners to build a safer and stronger city together. To come together and say, this is what our city should look like. This is how we should handle the crime. This is how we should mitigate the issues that people are facing that bring them in contact with the criminal justice system. And I know my city is willing to come together and do this, because I've seen us do it in the times of crisis and times of tragedy. And I believe I'm the absolute right person to bring everybody together. I have seen the criminal justice system from all three sides. I have been a defense attorney, I have been a prosecutor, and I have been a judicial law clerk for one of our criminal court judges. So I know it intimately from a professional standpoint. I also know it personally. We have had 2 family members murdered. I taught teen Sunday school, and in 2017, when we had that uptick in violent crime, 5 of those were my kids. And so this isn't some distant professional pursuit for me. This isn't something about power or politics. This is personal for me, and I know I'm absolutely the right person to take on this challenge so that in 8 years, we're in a better place than we are right now. I would love to have your vote. Thank you so much, Councilmember Bradford, for having me here, and also for sitting with me earlier this week, or last week, and telling me about some of the things he's hearing from you all here in this district and what's important to you. And so I take that to heart. I thank you so much for that, and I'm available to you also. I handed out some of my cards, and I'll leave some in the back. Please text me, call me, email me, go to my website. I am here for you, and I want to hear what you have to say about changing the direction of our criminal justice system. Thank you all.
My name is Marcus Lloyd. I'm running for General Sessions Court Judge, Division 7. I don't don't know if any of you guys have ever been to General Sessions Court or know much about it. The General Sessions Court handles both civil and criminal cases. If there were a court that you were to come into contact with, it's probably going to be General Sessions Court. Handle parking tickets, speeding tickets. If you were unfortunate to be the victim of a crime, those cases would start out in General Sessions Court. And so we need General Sessions Court judges who are well-rounded, who've done some things. I began my career as a probation officer, working here in Nashville and in Memphis, helping to connect folks to resources and get their lives back on track after they committed a criminal offense. I went to law school, came out, served as a judicial law clerk, but then became a prosecutor here in Nashville, handling thousands of the Nashville Fire Department to make the city safer. And I currently serve as a public defender, where I stand up for the rights of the indigent accused in our city. So as you can see, probation officer, prosecutor, policy advisor, and now public defender, I have done everything in the system. And with that experience, what that will allow me to do is be truly fair and impartial, which is what we want of our judges, just to be able to see issues from all sides and render fair judgments. I also think it's important to have General Sessions Court judges who have a well-rounded lived experience. Councilmember Bradford and I share something in common, in that we both grew up in Mississippi, in the Mississippi Delta. I grew up in a small town in Mississippi, moved here to Nashville the summer before my freshman year of high school. I attended and graduated from Hillsborough High School here, and then went on to become the first member of my family to go to college. I started out as a Nashville Tech, transferred to MTSU, and graduated with a degree in criminal justice from MTSU before going on to go to law school at Belmont University. And so personally, I'm well-rounded. That will allow me to meet people where they are when they come into the courtroom. And I would ask for May 3rd is the election. Early voting starts April 13th and runs through April 28th of next year. If you can remember Floyd for fairness, Floyd, fairness, I would appreciate your support and your vote. Thank you all.
Now, this is the time that I set aside. If y'all have any questions about anything you might have heard from my legislative?
I'm sorry. This is Jeff Petty, who is also running for office.
Come on.
Thank you, I appreciate it. Thanks.
No problem.
Good evening, everybody. Let me take this off real quick. So, good evening, everybody. My name is Jeff Petty, and I'm running to represent the 59th District in the State House. So part of the reason why I'm running is because I believe that my experience in public service is uniquely situated to be able to represent the 59th District in the State House. After I graduated from Milligan University in Johnson City, I began working as an open source intelligence analyst for the National Consortium for the Study of Terrorism and Response to Terrorism. Big mouthful. After that, I went to law school. While I was in law school, I worked as a student city attorney for the city of Superior. After graduating from law school, I immediately came here and started working for the public defender's office. So I have a proud record of public service that I think is uniquely situated to help to serve the 59th District. I'm also running because, like you, I believe in our country. And I believe in Tennessee. I believe in a Tennessee that fully funds education and makes sure that we have high-quality, safe schools for our children. I believe in a Tennessee that has robust community safety and early interventions to prevent crime before they even happen. I believe in a Tennessee that has robust infrastructure that not only brings in economic opportunity for all of us, but also works for our community as well. I believe in our community, and I believe in Tennessee, and that's why I'm running to bring equity and opportunity to everyone. So this evening, I humbly ask for your support and ask for you all to join me at jet4tn.com. And remember, on August 4th, vote Prep T for Tennessee. Thank you all so much.
So if you guys have any questions about what I've been doing, legislative, or just anything that's coming, I will say I forgot to mention earlier with my updates. I told you what I've been up to so far. So going forward, I'm hoping to push a little bit harder and make make some changes to our capital improvements budget to push up the dates for our new library in our district. The area around Murfreesboro Pike Drive Parkway has been identified as an undersold area for us here when it comes to libraries. So I've already identified a parcel of land, the library likes it. It's already got a structure that the library thinks they could just remodel. So we're cutting, because right now the budget is expecting $35 million to build the library. But with this property and right in, possibly cut that in half. So we're working on getting us closer to getting that funded. Also, I had a contact with the owners of the Priest Point Shopping Center with Blue Lion in it, if you're familiar with this side of the district, about a potential beautification project. Got their permission. I'm going to work with our beautification commissioner to get that painting wall cleaned up a little bit and work with Metro Arts to get some funding for a nice mural or something put up there. It'd be a nice little welcoming to the community and kind of help keep that area clean. So hopefully we'll be working on that next couple months. So those are just some things we'll be working on. So if y'all have any questions, if you can't think of anything right now, that's fine. There's my contact information. You know how to get in touch with me. I'm sure many of you already know that I'm like previous representatives. I will return your phone call and I will return your email.
I have a question. It doesn't have to do with this, but what would we have to do to get a stoplight at our Patio Drive?
At Patio and Elm Hill?
So there's already a stoplight right there at Timber Valley and Elm Hill. We're working on getting a caution light further up, but because of where that, just like with the off-ramp, you can't have stoplights
They
too
told
close.
me when I checked on it before, and they said there's one at Timber Valley, so you don't need one there. But yet, they built 6 telephones, and they put 2 stoplights up right next to the Timber Valley stop.
The developer had to put those in, so those didn't come at our cost. But that was one of the requirements within the building, they had to put those 2 stoplights.
You never see it turn out.
That is an area of concern. I talked out in about ways, what can we do, because that is a danger for the people around. I've asked the police to sit out there every time, so they kind of watch. So, one of my hopes with the development going on further down, where he's doing part of the road, they're going to restripe it so that, so those of you that may not be aware of that area, there's a new development behind the daycare center. One of the conditions for that to be approved was the developer has to restripe Downhill Pike. So what's going to happen, instead of having 2 lanes going towards town, it's going to be 1 turn lane and 1 through lane. And that turn lane is going to start just past the child care center, so that you have a turn lane onto Trails End. And so my hope is, one, it's going to force traffic to slow down, because now it's going from 2 lanes to 1, but it's stretching out that so that people have to start merging way before you get to Patio Villa. Because right now, people don't have to merge until they get to right there. And so
They put arrows up as soon as you pass Patio Drive is where you have to merge. Well, that doesn't help us.
So I'm hoping that maybe that will cut down some, but yes, I'm aware of it, and see what we can do.
I was just going to reiterate the restriping. So that one of the 2 lanes right there between Timber Valley and Patio Villa, right where it merges, that inside lane should become a zebra stripe, since there won't be 2 lanes going into town. So you'll kind of have somewhat of a little buffer island to go to turning out.
So we'll see how it goes, and I'm aware of it. Yes.
How about, so we've been talking for years about sidewalks going from the Food Line shopping center up, past
Down that road.
down up Bell Road. I mean, it's getting kind of ridiculous with all of the apartments that are going in and.
So that is already on the capital improvements budget. You may have heard me say that, and the capital spending plan. Best way to describe that as capital improvements budget is our Christmas wish list. This is, money was no option, what you do. The capital spending plan is what's actually been approved. The mayor will go through and talk to the different departments, like, okay, what's on the CID that we can actually fund this year in our budget? So CIB is wish list, CSP is the actual bill, credit card. So it's on CIB, put sidewalks on Bell Road going at least to Woodland Point. Trying to remember off the top of my head, it was several million dollars.
Well, what the payment we were talking about, that one little,
Oh, yes.
going right up to the Lacoya Bay
Yeah,
area.
I've asked, that's already on the improvement budget, when Mayor Cooper sat down with me right after the election 2 years ago. He asked me what my 3 priorities were in the district. I said, library, fire station, sidewalks, sidewalks, sidewalks. I want to see sidewalks around the Pike too. Because you see people walking up and down, especially on that bridge where there's no room. So I want to see sidewalks on there. Part of the pushback too is that part of Donelson Pike is not urban services, it's general services, so it's county. And so that's one of the perks of being in urban services is you get sidewalks, you get trash picker, you get recycling. So it's not a high priority in the county. But sidewalks at Donelson Pike, I put on CIB, sidewalks on Bell Road, widening of both roads are on CIB. But I kind of caution everybody, when you hear widening downhill, until the state, and I've kind of brought it up several times with KDOT, with our state reps, like, the state controls that bridge, even though Elm Hill is metro. It's like, we could widen up the Pike 10 lanes all day, but it's still going to bottleneck the 2-lane bridge. So until the state decides they need, either the bridge is too old or needs to be updated, which they're saying it's still, we still get updated, I think that's the fact. So that bridge is wide, we can't really do much with Elm Hill, which is why they really striping and trying to see if we can maybe control the traffic patterns better, so that's not as much of a bottleneck, it's more stretched out. And then we have that turn lane so people can not get caught on the side streets and have to leave their So trying to find ways to work smarter. Any other questions? All right, with,
Carl and Hertzford Road, the old Wranglers there, that all fits in. You know, to go tear it down, build something there?
so there is a redevelopment going in there. They had reached out to me, this one, I think it was 2 years ago, about rezoning it to, because parcels are one zoning, and front parcels another. And so they wanted to rezone everything commercial so that they had more flexibility. Because right now it's commercial in the front, office in the back. So they wanted to redo that so that they had a more regular business. I put on social media, we got Tina, okay, we have a developer that wants to bring some businesses. What kind of businesses do you want to see? What kind of businesses do you not want to see? And what more liquor stores? They don't want any more vape. They don't want cash advance. They don't want a mattress store. They want like a cafe or a coffee shop, a restaurant, doctor's office, some kind of office space. The only way to ensure that we control what goes in was through an SP, or specific plan zoning, where we can actually put in the legislation, yes, this is commercial, but you can only do X, Y, and Z. A developer said he didn't think the owners would want to go through the process because having an SP is a little bit more expensive than just doing regular rezoning. So I never heard back from them. And then I started seeing construction come up, and I reached out to planning, and they're basically, from the plans I've seen, it's just going to be an L-shaped structure, kind of like a strip mall, but it's going to be, I think it's going to be multi-stories in the back, because we're going to keep office space in the back part, and then the front part, closer to the Pike, would be commercial. So I don't know any more details about what the tenants are going to be, what's going to be there, but that's hopefully going to be cleaned up a little bit with the new businesses. And there's been a couple requests from other developments and redos about getting sidewalk waivers on Murfreesboro Pike, which I pushed back. Like, that's the last thing we need.